Hello and happy Saturday, everybody. I hope that you have a fun weekend or relaxing weekend planned on Saturdays. I love to wrap up the week with my friend, commentator, comedian, and the writer of the great Substack page, newmusicforolds.substack.com. Christian Finnegan joins me. We went live last night on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe to my YouTube page, youtube.com/standupwithpete. Christian and I wrapped up the week talking about disappearing Americans, sending rich women into space, and so much more. Always love my conversations with Christian. This one is no exception. Please go let him know that you heard it here on the show. Let's do it right now. Saturdays with Christian, wrapping up the week. What the week with Christian Finnegan. Happy to have you joining me to wrap up the week. We're live on YouTube, and I think maybe Twitter, maybe not. I got to figure it out, but glad that you're here. I always love talking to you about all the things that we're living through. And you put it pretty succinctly a few days ago at Blue Sky. You wrote, "I'll vote for any candidate who can make me believe we won't be power cycling through the stages of grief every day for the rest of our lives." It really is said every day. You're going through all kinds of anger and frustration and moments of joy, flittering moments. Go ahead.
Yeah, not literally every day. It starts with, no, this can't be happening, to what, maybe if I change my behavior somehow, it's not as bad as it seems, like the bargaining and then the denial and then the anger. And then finally you're just like, all right, I just blindly will trust that this will get better someday. And then I go to sleep and then the whole cycle begins anew. And when I say that I'll vote for any candidate who makes me believe that we won't be doing that, any candidate who truly makes me believe it, not just says it. You know what I mean? I've had about enough like soul of the nation blather, prove it. Obviously, everybody's talking about what Chris Van Hollen did, which is I'm really happy that he went down to El Salvador, and I'm really happy that he was able to meet with Mr. Garcia and all those things. But that should be like standard. That should be, yeah. I'm sure you've read some of the scuttlebutt from unnamed Democratic sources who are calling this a distraction, and we should be.
Yeah, those who follow poll-tested issues think that this is a distraction and that they should be focused on the economy. And it's just a weird analysis to be making 18 months away from an election. And furthermore, if you stand for nothing, then you stand for nothing. And but there should have been a whole bunch of senators that went with Van Hollen. But either way, we give him credit for going. He's getting a lot of credit.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope that it encourages a lot of them to be like, oh, there are things you can do if you think even just slightly outside of the box. And it's not even the box that you're in. It's the box that your consultants have told you in, that told you that you're in, which is considerably smaller than the actual box. I understand that when you're an electoral consultant, if was one of those when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail situation. It's not just about winning elections. It's also about being a public servant once you get elected. It's about doing the job, not just getting the job. And it feels people being abducted off the street.
Yeah.
If you're not fighting that, then what are you doing? And somebody on Blue Sky, I don't remember who, made the observation that all these consultants, what it always ends up, they're always arguing against doing something. We shouldn't be doing this. We should be doing this instead. We shouldn't be doing this. But the things that they say that they should be doing always involve really not doing much other than maybe putting out a stupid fucking press release or 3 lines in your stump speech.
I heard Jamie Raskin in an interview. Jamie Raskin yesterday said, and I thought this is really important, and I wanted to echo this in many ways as I can. He said, we're not just legislators anymore. Now we have to be leaders and, more importantly, organizers. And I think that is so true. Organizing at the local level, which Absolutely. I and others in my community, you and your community have been doing for a long time. But also these rallies with AOC and Bernie Sanders, it's not just a rally. Every person that goes in there puts their email on a list just to get a ticket, not just on the way in. So that is organizing. So what do you think of the idea of talking about actions speak louder than words, Van Hollen going, Raskin's point about being organizers? That's what congressional, quote, leaders have to do right now in every district in this country.
Yeah, it's like the cameras are pointed in one direction. They're not pointed at us, they're pointed at them. And so the people who are in front of the cameras need to do the work of organizing the people who are not in front of the cameras. The people who have the bullhorn, who have the microphone, they need to step up and act as organized. I guess the word's organized,
Yep.
but like some sort of fulcrum around which people can gather to find information and to give voice to the sort of general frustrations. How can anybody watch these Bernie and AOC rallies and not see that there's just a hunger for people to want to do something, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah,
They don't
yep.
know where to go.
Yep.
And I think I'm the same way. It's so give me somewhere to go. Give me something to do. Give me some practical advice. The first time, as I've said a couple times, I happen to live in AOC's district, and we 8 years ago, whenever it was, when the family separation stuff was going on, maybe 6, 7 years, whatever that was, when AOC was running for the House, she hadn't won yet. She had a rally in Jackson Heights, I think, and my wife and I rode our bikes out there and we went to it. And I'd seen her on TV and stuff, but I'd never seen her speak. And the thing that made the most impact on me is not just that she's got her moral ducks in a row and all those things, which are true, is that she, without being asked, gave the audience like a practical, like, assignment. Like, here's something you can do. Basically, she's go around to your immigrant neighbors and make sure they have your phone number and let them know your name.
Yep.
Like, it's easy to New York. And now, granted, I did very little of that. I had one awkward conversation with my super in which I felt like I was maybe accusing him of being undocumented when he probably wasn't. I was like, hey, man, if you need anything, I'm here for you. And he's just like, yeah, okay, thanks.
But the point was that she's actually telling you, giving you assignments. Yes. Do something with your hands. Do something with your feet. Do something. And that's what Raskin.
Other than just give me money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you make of the photo that came out late last night with Chris Van Hollen and Abrego Garcia? First of all, some people at our hangout joked around, and I think it was Kevin Richberg, and said, they made Abrego Garcia look so good. He's got brand new clothes on, new sneakers, and Van Hollen looks terrible. He looked terrible.
They clearly brought him straight from the airport. They wanted to make sure he looked sufficiently rumpled before his meeting.
I watched the press conference today where Van Hollen talked about what happened and the orchestration of all of it. And apparently the El Salvador government people brought over glasses with salted rims as well. Yeah. And Van Hollen took you all the way through it. It's a really fascinating thing. But what do you make of the Trump administration, or rather regime's reaction to all of this? They seem to be holding fast, misinterpret it, lying it. And then it sounds like the courts, the federal courts, circuit court, and Supreme Court have all had enough of this. Seems to be coming to a head. What are your thoughts here at the end of the week? Some shit's going to break real quick.
Yeah. Either the Trump administration is going to have to eat it on this and bring him back, or the Supreme Court is just going to have to accept, oh, I guess we're not really the Supreme Court anymore.
Right.
I guess we're literally nothing but a rubber stamp for this particular president, because when we tell him, no, granted, I feel like the Supreme Court brought this on themselves slightly. I brought them on themselves for a whole generation of being scumbags, or at least selected members. But they put in that 9-0 decision that he had to facilitate the return of Mr. Garcia. I always want to say his name incorrectly, so that's why I keep saying Garcia. It's Abrego Garcia.
Guillermo Abrego Garcia, who is probably was
Garcia.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep saying Mr. Garcia. Anyway, the Trump's very predictable response to that was, oh, they didn't say we had to effectuate the return of this gentleman. We have to facilitate it. So basically, I guess what they're saying is, if El Salvador wants to send him back, we'll send him a cab to pick him up at the airport, I guess, is really what their response is. And you can just so tell that it's just got Stephen Miller written all over it. Just bombast, some of the disgusting stuff that the White House social media accounts are putting out.
Yep.
They've made this like, They can't be shown to go back on anything, or else I feel like they're worried.
Never
that the
give
whole
up,
facade
never apologize.
Will
Yeah, very Roy Coney.
And this douche in El Salvador, man, talk about who's this new character that's been introduced to our hellscape? This bobblehead from
looks like
from El Salvador,
a nightclub manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Or he's like the guy who'd be selling meth down in the club basement, like in the dance club basement. Like, he'd be the guy that you go to. But yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, obviously. And I just, the way they're acting and the way El Salvador is acting, do they never think that Trump is going to be out of power? And maybe the short answer is yes, that's what they do believe. But this is a guy who's 80. This isn't, we've discussed a number of times, I don't think that this, whatever snake charmer magic he has on these people, or whatever devil's bargain people have made in their souls to support this guy, I don't think that's necessarily transferable. Really don't. I don't know what they imagine is going to happen once Trump dies. And certainly they shouldn't be so confident about it that they're putting like real targets on their back.
Yeah, I think I think Van Hollen didn't say publicly, but it must have been at some point, it must have been communicated to Bukele that, as you just said, Trump's not going to be here forever, and you could end up The Hague, or we could just defund all these contracts you have, or you could just let us see the guy, show us that he's alive, let us talk to him. And those threats are going to keep going because Congress does have some power in the future potentially. So I think that's probably a pretty fair conclusion assumption. All right, that was obviously the big.
Yeah, you also have to wonder, like, what was the primping session like? How clean, how much cleaned up was this dude before he met with Senator Van Hollen?
That story. I hope we get that story at some point.
Yeah,
in the
movie, and I wonder what he was allowed to say and what warned not to say. That don't say anything bad because Van Hollen's going to leave and you're going to be here.
Can't you see this dramatized in a feature film someday? Van Hollen's on the road to the prison, this fucking horrible prison, the drama of the scenes inside that prison. Let me ask you this. I knew I wanted to ask you this. I always loved kind of your moral clarity. What do you think of the Republican congressman who the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, went down there and she let them in, not Democrats, she let them in. And what do you think of the idea of any person at any point taking a picture outside the cell where men are literally piled up staring through their bars at you? It reminded me of being at a zoo in a way, but it was like very dehumanizing and disgusting.
Worse.
What is that when you take a picture?
And you know that these prisoners are being incentivized. They didn't just decide to stand in these neat rows behind bars.
It's all choreographed.
Photos.
Yeah, it's all choreographed.
Yeah, but a choreographed or threatened. Who knows what is forcing? Yeah. And I'm sure they're like, all right, face tattoos to the front, please. You know what I mean? Like everybody that's covered with tattoos, they're setting right up front. It's repulsive. And it's,
you feel bad about making that joke right now. And I love it. And I think it's a great joke. Most tattooed in the front.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like, we're ranking by height. They rank by face tattoos. I mean, you run out of words to describe this, and I don't think that anybody I don't know that they've thought a lot of this through. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of the ships leaving from China. Apparently, a lot of the shipping containers have been canceled because of tariffs, and so that hasn't affected the economy yet. But because there's like a lag time, I don't know however many weeks or months it is for these ships to cross the ocean. But all those truck drivers are going to have nothing to drive. And so I don't know what's going to happen in June, July, August. And tourism is in the shitter. Yeah. And I would love to ask the question of all of these Trump supporting comedians who talk about how the left is so bad for comedy. And I'm curious to see what the New York and LA club scenes look like over the next year or two. Because I don't know if it's a dirty secret, but it's on a Saturday night or any night going to the comic strip or Stand Up New York or one of the clubs in the city. I don't know. Conservatively, 25% of the room is from another country.
Yeah. Yep.
Because that's the same way that we would go to the Louvre in Paris. It's like people come to New York City and they want to go see a stand-up comedy show. That is part of the appeal of coming to New York. And I really feel like the comedy scene in New York is going to take it in the face.
So is every other tourist state attraction and anything else, and even like business trade shows and so on, where people come internationally, and obviously academic institutions for any reason. We're going to take billions and billions of dollars of losses for people that just don't want to come here out of protest or confusion. They're worried about getting stuck in purgatory at JFK.
And the die on that is cast. It's not even like the tariffs, which is, maybe they could go away or they could be rescinded or whatever. No, people already have it in their head that America is bad news, and people have already canceled the trips. And I guarantee you they're not making them right now. And not only that, it's like, it's not even going to be pleasant for us to go anywhere. Like, it's just,
Right.
I always knew that that countries had animus towards the United States for valid reasons and for invalid reasons or whatever. But I never really thought of us feeling like a pariah in the world. Do you know what I mean? I thought of anything of being like the bully and maybe being self-centered and egocentric and all the things that Americans are cliched as around the world. But I never really thought of us as being like scum to other countries. And I really feel like that's the way we're going to be thought of by a lot of people.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt about it. Remember last week when all the talk was about the economy collapsing because of Trump's trade war, and he caved on that, and you thought that story is not going away. And then this week it was driven by the abduction of this guy, Abrego Garcia. Who knows what it's going to be next week? I like to think both those stories will stay in the news. And remember, just a few weeks ago, it was Signalgate. It's interesting how these stories break and how they drive the day or the week, and how we focus in on them. But I always want to make sure we talk about the things that might be undercovered as well here.
But you were at the point now where we have fucking David Brooks calling for organized resistance to the government. It's like, how have we gone to this point where Bill Kristol and David Brooks are to the left of 75% of our elected Democratic representatives? Guys, women.
Yeah, I think David Brooks.
Get in. The water's warm.
Yeah, I think David Brooks quoted Saul Alinsky.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Like, this might actually break through to my dad at this point. My dad is a Democrat by all means, but he's definitely a Democrat who respects David Brooks kind of Democrat. And so hopefully this will trickle down and people will expand their ideas of what an acceptable resistance to this looks like.
Meanwhile, there was a shooting at Florida State University. School shootings are now as American as apple pie and medical bill bankruptcy and all kinds of other things that are terrible. And apparently
he ran out of terrible things to list.
The death penalty, and I'm looking at the description. I don't want to say his name, but he's a Trumper wearing a MAGA hat.
And apparently the head of the debate club for the school or whatever said they had to kick him out because he was like, his beliefs were fascist and insane. Yeah, he was quoted, at least by one source, as hating multiculturalism and communism. And then he killed a bunch of people. And Trump responded to that by saying that it wasn't the gun, it was the person. But there was a shooting, and it gets overshadowed. What's weird is I just read a headline where some of the Parkland survivors, of course it was in Florida, they survived Parkland in high school, and now they survived a Florida State shooting. That's got to be a real record to write in your journal. I survived 2 shootings in my lifetime in Florida, by the way, both of them. Well, rule of 3. They got one more shooting coming to them. Then they win the prize. Especially if they stay in Florida. Yeah. As we were talking, my wife passed me a note, as she is wont to do. Oh, let's go. Because she wanted to make sure that I spoke up. No, this is honestly true. I'm sure you know about the SAVE Act. Oh, yeah, sure. Please. Yeah. I wasn't going to mention it because I don't know. Her mom is currently getting fucked by that because her mom grew up in deaf community and also grew up in poverty in Oklahoma, and the name on her birth certificate, and strap in for this because you will never hear a more Depression era Oklahoma name than Orva Jean is her birth name. But from the age of 11, she was called Christy, and that has been her name her whole life. But early birth certificates don't say that. And so now she's having to go through all this rigmarole to try to make these names match up, and so that she's able to vote in the future. And she has the ability she has the money and the time. And, quite frankly, I think my wife has been trying to stress with her the quote unquote white privilege that she can go into these Social Security offices or whatever, and they're going to take her seriously and help her out because she's a nice white lady who, is the right kind of person for them to help or whatever. But all of this stuff, this voter fraud crap or whatever, it trickles down to be an annoyance for all of us. We're all going to be inconvenienced by this. Yep. I don't care if you're the biggest Trumper in the world. Your life will be more complicated because of Donald Trump. What the SAVE Act could mean for millions of voters is something worth diving into. If you haven't already, there's a lot of conflicting
ideas out there and propaganda about it, but really important. I'm glad that
I have the same problems because like my first name is Fletcher, but I've always gone by my middle name, which is Christian. And most of my documents that I signed growing up say F. Christian Finnegan because that's just how I signed things. And back before 9/11, none of this shit really mattered. Like people just, nobody knew you had to be utterly consistent about this from the day you were born. So it's like I'm waiting for it to be a problem for me as well.
I had no idea that was your first name. I'm shocked right now, but I have.
Really?
But
you've never known my name is Fletcher?
I don't think I have, but I also know that I've said F. Christian Finnegan on my own hundreds of times.
I see what you did there. Well done. Me and F. Murray Abraham, the two of us.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's hilarious and troubling for you and others who have any – yeah, everybody who has had any – I heard this story anecdotally from another person too. Anybody who goes by one name and it's not on their birth certificate, it gets very confusing, especially if you're first generation American or not. So it's really –
Or again, like anybody over the age of 45, like record keeping was just not that diligent back then. I wouldn't know where my birth certificate is, or maybe I might have one copy of it. I think I got a copy of it, but I don't have a social security card. I have a social security number, but if somebody asked me for my social security card, I don't even know where I would begin to try to find that. But again, because of voter fraud, quote unquote, all of us have to deal with this nonsense.
What about those women that went up in the Amazon rocket ship? How did you feel about that? Did you think that was a one small step for womankind?
I was so inspired by just the luster of their hair and the tightness of their spacesuits.
They were.
And I don't mean to belittle all of them because I know a few of them were the kind of people you might imagine would be going on I think one woman was a cancer survivor, had some sort of, there were a couple people who were like really qualified or the kind of people you would imagine would be sent on these sort of PR trips to space. But really, and I don't know that this is true, but I'm almost certain that this entire thing was just a PR campaign for Lauren Sanchez. Like it seems like this whole thing was centered on, this is Jeff Bezos's, his partner. I don't think they're married.
Yeah.
But the woman he left his wife for. And if ever a woman in history has looked like someone a middle-aged dude has left his wife for, it's Lauren Sanchez.
She made a lot of changes to her face, I think.
She looked like, what's her name in Modern Family? What's I don't know. The Spanish sexy lady. What's her name?
Sofia Vergara.
Yeah, Sofia Vergara. I'm sure that's in his head who he was going. I'm being cruel about a woman's looks, but I have a real dislike for this person. Bezos as well, but just that picture of him in that cheesy shirt that you always see of them at a party. Have you ever seen Jeff Bezos in his like too tight shirt?
Yeah.
They're gross. And I just feel like if anyone out there wants to make me a billionaire, here's my promise to you. If I ever become a billionaire, I will go the fuck away and you will never hear from me again. I will not also have to be thought of as cool or funny or intelligent or modern. Like I don't need to be an astronaut. I will just go away.
I won't.
And I just wish that
I'm so much different than you. I will spend my entire life doing good things with my money and then giving press conferences about it. Somewhere in between us is not Elon Musk, who won't go away and doesn't do any good things with his money. You would think, like most billionaires really do have a hospital, a pediatric ward.
Just because they have nothing else to do with it. Like they need something to do with it. A lot of times, a lot of this charity is just a way to literally do something with your money because you just have too much of it.
Elon Musk, we found out this week, is spending a lot of money on spreading his seed. I had to get your take on that. It felt weird to me that this was not a bigger story because this guy is so involved in our lives. The Wall Street Journal has this whole story about the tactics that Elon Musk is using to manage his, quote, legion of babies and their mothers. There's a lot of things to say about it. What are some of the things you have to say about this news?
At least they'll have each other. Maybe they can all get together and socialize amongst themselves. I'll be curious to see how many of them. It's funny because you know how like in the Dark Ages or during the bubonic plague, families would have a lot of babies because only a few of them would survive. Whereas like Elon has to have a lot of kids, because what is the percentage that will actually continue speaking to him into adulthood? So he has to have, I figure if he has 20 kids, then maybe 5 of them will actually be on good terms with him by the time they turn 18. So I think he's playing the numbers game. And I don't know whether I think the most terrifying thing about it, and I'm sorry I'm being a little imprecise because I don't necessarily want to say what I'm about to say, but the most terrifying thing about it is that I think it's pretty clear that he's not having sex, generally speaking, with these women. These are
sperm donors?
Sperm.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
In vitro.
I didn't read the article. I thought it was.
Well, that Ashley St. Clair, I guess, claimed that they had sex, but apparently the vast majority of these women who have had his babies, they've not had sexual intercourse. It's all been in vitro. But that makes you know that, like, does he have a room? Does he have his own sperm bank within his compound? And what do you think he's watching? What do you think his porn is?
Oh, wow.
What do you
Probably like anime or robots or some kind of futuristic. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about
tentacle
that anymore.
porn, like
I
some
wish I had
sort of
asked
anime.
you this question now. I didn't want to end up.
That's why I said I didn't know if I wanted to say what I was going to say, but now I put it all in your head too.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Maybe think it's just that meme that like right wing people post of that woman after Hillary lost that with the blue hair, like crying, like standing in the crowd, and like they always put like liberal tears.
Yeah.
I think it's just he has that just on a giant screen and he just twists one off to that.
Yeah, that some kind of woke mind virus porn.
Yeah. Or either that or just an AI generation of what he looks like. Something AI. There's probably AI involved.
The truth is, because he's so anti-trans, it's probably trans porn that he loves. That's why he hates it.
Oh, yeah.
He hates himself.
And I bet when he quote unquote finishes, he says, I just grokked.
Now I'm glad I asked. Now you saved it. You saved it.
I found it.
Before I let you go, it is Easter weekend. It's a holiday week. You had the Passover, and now you got the Easter. And I know you're probably doing something special. You get a new dress. You're making lamb chops. You're hiding. You're doing.
I get my church hat.
Your egg hunt. You got a new church hat.
When I was a kid, I remember when my mother told me that Santa Claus didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like I remember specifically finding out that Santa Claus didn't exist.
I remember that too.
And then there was about a year, I think, that went by where I knew Santa Claus didn't exist, but I still believed in the Easter Bunny, which is a very weird combination.
That's weird. I immediately asked my mom when she told me about Santa. I asked her about all the rest. I went right down the line, even to Mark, my imaginary friend. Who?
Even to Jesus.
I went Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy. I was Santa, Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy. But what about Jesus? Did he rise again? No, they moved his body.
No. Yeah, probably. And people always never mention in the Bible. It very clearly says that the tomb where Jesus was buried, the tomb was owned by like a friend of Jesus. So it's entirely possible that. Yeah, or that there was some sort of, yes, I don't know the exact quote, but it's a lot of Occam's razors between
Do you do anything
between the story we've been told and what actually probably happened.
Oh, we're in trouble. One of our live viewers, this is why you don't go live, was in the room with their kids when you just destroyed their entire world.
I'm sorry about grokking.
No, it was talking about the Santa background.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Wow. Remember when those kids found out the truth? It was comedian Christian Finnegan. So you're not doing anything for Easter? You don't do anything? You don't care?
No, I haven't been a religious person forever. And Easter there's no good secular version of Easter the way there is like a secular version. Like Christmas, you can still celebrate fully. There's like stuff to do.
Yeah.
Whereas what is there to do on Easter if you're not religious other than just eat candy and go to brunch,
right.
Which is something I'd probably do on a typical Sunday anyway.
So it makes no difference in your life. Nonetheless, happy Easter, everybody. I guess, if that's a thing you care about.
Yeah. If you are someone for whom that means a lot, I don't mean to poo and diminish it. I hope that it is a meaningful and special day for you to spend with your families and or loved ones.
That's not what you told me off the air.
No, it's complete bullshit. It's just checking a box.
Christian Finnegan, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for everybody who watched live, too. Subscribe to the channel.
Thanks, Peter.
We'll talk to you Later. I'm ending it. I'm hitting end. All right, there you go. What the Week with Christian Finnegan. That's what I think I'm going to call it. The name of my old CNN show that I did for 8 weeks. 8 whole weeks. I still have a water bottle to prove it. And that is all I've got. Go subscribe to Substack. Newmusicforolds.substack.com. That's Christian. And subscribe to me on YouTube and all the rest. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday right here on Stand Up. Stand up. Let the brave meet the challenge. Let the meek weak flee. Boy, you better stand up.